Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Harris Bard for Pond Life Aquatics and Tropical Fish London, and in today's video, a look at a variety of all the different stock that we got in here at Northwest London's biggest and best aquatic centre. Let's get into it. So, for those of you who do not know, and I'm sorry for those of you who do, we are Pond Life Aquatics and Tropical Fish London, and we do things a little bit differently in the fish house. We arrange everything continent by continent, and the reason we do this is to help with educating people about where their fish are from, and also we tend to have schools in every now and then, so it's really useful for us to be able to educate people about where specific fish are from in the world. But anyway, without further ado, when you first come into the fish house and look on the left-hand side, you have our South American range. And typically, when you first look into these tanks, we have our Livebearer section. And we only got in one new type of Livebearer, and those are fancy Dumbo male guppies. They really are beautiful for a fancy guppy. They are a live-bearing species, which means that they will breed very readily if they are kept alongside female guppies. It's not something that I typically recommend, although it seems like a lot of people do really enjoy breeding guppies, but they don't quite know what they're getting themselves into when they end up with a huge explosion in population. So, if I were going to suggest to a newcomer about keeping a Livebearer tank, I would suggest to them maybe stick with male fancy guppies. You get all of these beautiful colours and interesting behaviours without any of the side effects of loads of inbred guppies with a small gene pool, where you end up having to cycle through new males, new females to make sure you don't get any deformities or things such as that. But that being said, these guppies are absolutely stunning. But we aren't just keeping Livebearers in this section this week. We've got in one of my favorite species of South American fish that we haven't had in for a little while. This species is the Red Whiptail Catfish, or a Farllewella. And we got those in relatively recently for one of my favorite customers, John. John asked us to get in some Royal Farllewella last time, but we decided that we wanted to get in some Red Whiptail cats this time around. The Red Whiptail Catfish is a peaceful community species of bottom-dwelling cats that are native to South America. They are typically characterized by these beautiful red colorations and really interesting markings across their body. They typically need something like a 70-litre aquarium and do require quite a good amount of flow and oxygen. What's great about this fish is they're extraordinarily peaceful, so can be kept in your typical community tank. Specifically, if you're going for a community tank that's based around a South American biome, these guys fit in really, really nicely. Red whiptails are a little bit rarer when it comes to a bottom-dwelling species, but I think these guys are absolutely stunning. They've come in with these really vivid colorations. I'm hoping they'll color up even more, but they've really settled in, started grazing on algae in one of the female guppy tanks, and I'm really excited these guys have come in. So if you are in the market for a beautiful community species, some bottom dweller in South America that will help keep algae under control in your tank, while you also have something like a sand base, these guys are absolutely perfect. Moving slightly further down in South America, you find everything that you would expect. Things like Tetra and Corydoras. In terms of cories, we have things like Similis corydoras, sturbis, peppers, pandas, all of those beautiful species that you would expect to find. But when it comes to newness this week, we have in Ember Tetras, which I know for a lot of people, they're not going to think, wow, how exciting Ember Tetras. But for us here, we very rarely get in Ember Tetras, and when we do, they sell extraordinarily quickly. Ember Tetras are a diminutive species of tetra that can be kept in smaller community aquariums. They've got this gorgeous red coloration to their bodies, very similar to a lot of other species that we got in this week. But they are so easy and hardy to keep for smaller aquariums. I'm personally keeping some not in my home, but in my parents' home now. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to shut down those tanks, but I absolutely love my Ember Tetras. I've had them for a fair few years now. Super easy to keep. And I think that when you're looking for a species in a smaller aquarium, Ember Tetras really should be a thing that a lot more people go for, particularly if you want to keep a smaller species from South America in a smaller aquarium. Ember Tetras fill that niche so beautifully. They're one of my favorite little fish, and I'm really excited to have them in. The other things that have come in red this week are some really beautiful German red and citrus. German reds get their name obviously from their deep red coloration. They are an absolutely beautiful species of ancistrus that have been bred to have these bright, bold colorations, and they've settled in really nicely into our rummy nose tank. They are a little bit dear when it comes to pricing compared to your average ancistrus, but I feel like that pays off when you have these big, bold colors in a tank, particularly if you're trying to combat algae or anything else like that. If you need something that's not going to get quite as big, we did get in some Otocinclus affins. These guys are quite small, and obviously they will grow on. Keeping Otocinclus affins, as I've talked about in the past, they do really require being kept in larger shoals. And if you keep them in a large shoal, they'll be less stressed, you'll get more out of them. They'll typically eat more algae, they'll be more active, and you'll just be able to enjoy having Otocinclus in your tank. You won't run into the issues that a lot of people have online, where their fish seem to slowly dwindle in number from 4s down to 3, 2, and then finally you end up with no Otocinclus whatsoever. Keeping them in 12s to 15s keeps them bold and confident, and you don't seem to have those issues of them slowly dying off. Definitely worthwhile keeping. One of my favorite species are the Otocinclus. Then in the other tanks, we've got some really beautiful Aistogrammers. These guys are really bold and fun and just cute. If you're looking for a stunning South American cichlid, these guys are the ones for you. Obviously, we still have our Rathboonie Tetras that I mentioned last week, and we have some really beautifully colored up Cardinal Tetras alongside our Similus cories. Over on the larger side of South America, we have our Angelfish alongside our Incolocana corridoris. Obviously nothing new on this side, but if you are in the market for a big boy angelfish, I have got some footage of an angel that was brought into us and is currently residing in our quarantine house. There's nothing wrong with him. He's been there for a few weeks now. He's completely in good nick. It's just we do not want him to go into there and start bullying the smaller angels. So if you have a large angelfish tank with some really developed specimens, definitely give us a shout. This boy has a really pronounced head. I'm pretty sure he's a Pinoy, but I would need to spend some more time trying to identify him, and I just have not had time in the shop. And also, I'll be honest, I'm not an expert in angels. But in here, we still have our baby koi angels. We have our Incolocana catfish that have obviously been feeding on some brine shrimp. And then next door to them, we still have our dwarf polar parrots, and we're still holding on to our pigeon blood discus. They are hard water discus if you are in the market for something that you can keep in London tap. And moving into Asia, we have our Galaxy koi female betters. We've got a couple more in, I think, and they are just such a stunning species of fish. If I could set up a new tank in my new flat, I would seriously be considering keeping a heavily planted sorority just to keep some of these guys. They are absolutely beautiful. I know a friend of the channel and the shop, Brendan, is looking to keep 5 of the blue ones for his species tank at the moment. There is a new tank that I'll talk about later on that we have in stock. We're experimenting with some new stock in terms of new tanks, and I feel like one of the tanks that we've got in would specifically be ideal for a better sorority. In the tank below them, we got our Torpedo Barbs. They are getting bigger and they're going to need moving into our dedicated barb range at some point. In the tank below that, we have spread out a new shipment of Pakistani loach, just because we don't want to overload the tank that the other Pakistanis are in. We put them alongside our neon green Rasbora and shouldn't have any issues in there. In the tank next to them, we've obviously got our sparkling Gouramis. In the tank next to them, we still have some CPDs or Galaxy Rasbora. We did try to get a lot more in because they are one of the most popular species of fish in our Asian range, but unfortunately they didn't come in. So if you are in the market for CPDs, we do have them in stock. Give us a call and make sure that we still have them, and maybe think about reserving them. In the tank above them, we still have some beautiful honey Gouramis. All of the blue cobalt Gouramis completely sold out, as we thought they would. They have sold to my older brother because he thought they were stunning, and that tank is looking beautiful. But in this tank, we have a variety of new snails, whether that be horned snails, Neorite snails, zebra snails. Snails are just a really great way of having a cleanup crew inside of a tank without adding a huge amount of bioload. So if you're suffering from algae on the front of your glass, you're not quite sure what to do, you don't want to add a fish in because you haven't got a huge amount of filtration, snails really do fill that void. I personally love little horned snails. I think they are great, but also have a place for things like ram's horns and Neorites. The great thing about keeping a Neorite snail, for example, is that they will not breed in fresh water. They do require brackish for the eggs to hatch. The only downside of that is you do end up with these white, indestructible eggs on a lot of surfaces when you keep them happily, but it's a small price to pay for the amount of algae these guys can eat. In the tank above them, we have our Asian rummy nose species, and then next to them we have our regular harlequins. Below them, we have our white cloud mountain minnows, and we got a whole bunch of assassin snails in. And then obviously we still have our other Gouramis, our emerald eye Rasbora, and that's pretty much it for this entire rack. Now down the end of the fish house in our dedicated goldfish and barb range, we actually have a hell of a lot of new things. In terms of barbs, we have these absolutely beautiful Longfin black spot Rosy Barbs that have really settled in nicely. They are doing so well alongside our cherry barbs that we already had in and our Pentazoa Barbs. And I'm at the point where I think everyone should be keeping a dedicated barb tank. It's so vibrant and full in there and just so full of life. Sometimes I feel like barbs get branded as a boring dither fish to try and bring out something from another species, but I do genuinely believe they are worthwhile keeping in their own right, in their own species tank. Even just keeping things like Pentazoas or even the Longfin black spot cherries would be so interesting in their own beautifully planted barb tank. Not to mention, in the tank next to them, we have some of the most coloured up Odessas I've ever seen. And that's not even me being hyperbolic about things. These guys have come in and instantly coloured up. They are looking absolutely beautiful in this tank. I would be very surprised if we do not have people taking these guys home, particularly for larger aquariums this weekend. Not to mention, our goldfish tanks are now looking really rather well stocked. We've got some high grade Orandas alongside some Ryukins, and everything's living in a temperate space alongside rainbow shiners. Obviously, we keep these fish in big tanks. They need a lot of space. I feel like people have this misconception about fancy goldfish where because of being able to get a fancy goldfish in a bowl at a fair, they feel like that is still the best way to keep goldfish. I saw someone did a meme about Wicked where they were saying the only reason goldfish are kept as much as they are is because they are popular, but they are often kept so wrong. You need to have them in a big tank. They are a communal species. So when we say you can keep a single goldfish in a 60 litre, that is really not the most ideal situation, and we'll always encourage largely for people to keep fancy goldfish in a minimum of about 100 to 120 litres, and then keep them in maybe ones or twos and grow them on so that they have sufficient space, and you're not going to run into nearly as many issues as if you have a fancy goldfish tank full of loads of fancies. You haven't got sufficient space or filtration, and then they develop all of these inherent issues that you get with fancy goldfish. Better to keep a smaller number of them in a larger space, grow them on, enjoy them, and then you get all of the brilliant looking aspects of fancy goldfish without a lot of the downsides. And then across in Asia, I can't even call this our dedicated Siamese fighting fish range anymore, because we do have quite a diversity of different species. Obviously, we still have our Siamese fighting fish. They are one of the main things that we sell here at Pond Life Aquatics. We have quite a diverse range in. We keep our Galaxy Koi placat males. We also have your typical deltas alongside your full moons and half moons. And we always have a good stock of phytocin. But in this area, we also have this really stunning aquascape that was donated by a customer who wasn't very well. That is something we offer to do here. If you are in a situation where unfortunately a family member has died, or if someone's not very well and can't take care of their tanks, we do offer a service where we will take them off your hands and we will try and maintain them in a way that is loved and preserved, particularly if they're an aquascape like this. Obviously, if it's just a regular tank that needs to be shut down, we will help you move those fish on. But if it's a particularly stunning aquarium like the gentleman who donated this tank has created, we will try and put them on display and keep them the way that it was intended. This tank, in my opinion, is one of the most beautiful tanks I've ever seen a customer create, and I could not bring myself to break it down. It is an Aqua One Aqua Nano, and I think it's stunning. He did such a great job with it, and I just could not bring myself to break the tank down. So we moved it as a whole piece, and it is going to remain that way, and I'm going to do my best to keep it maintained this way. Additionally, in this area, we got some Neocaradina in the form of orange rilly shrimp. And then we also have our Kahaku Medakas. We did sell a few of them this week and we are running a little bit low. I have seen the males chasing the females and we are starting to see eggs appear before rapidly disappearing again. So if you are in the market to breed Medaka rice fish, do get down to us sooner rather than later. We will try and get more in, but if they are gone and we can't source them anymore, they are gone. That is it. In our Australian range, we obviously have everything we would expect from an Australian range. We have a variety of different rainbow fish alongside peacock gudgeon. Nothing new this week, but our blue eye rainbows are looking beautiful. Red eyes are looking fat and healthy. Our Praecox rainbows have really settled in since last week. And obviously, peacock gudgeon are still one of the most beautiful little species of nanofish you can keep. And then finally, in our Africa range, we have a diversity of different cichlids, some tetras, and some frogs. We didn't get anything new in this week, but we have our Lake Malawi cichlids that are still looking really happy and healthy. Obviously, there's some dominance behaviors that go on, but all in all, we're looking quite good in there. We then have our Tanganyikan species, so Ocellatus, Lamprologus lupis, and our daffodil cichlids. And then below them, we have our Congo tetras, which have really colored up, really starting to show off those blues, Starting to get some dimorphism from the males and females, which is great, really makes it easier to sell them on. And then we have some Longfin Africans that have been here for quite a while now. Obviously, we have our Hoplosternum cats, and then below them we have our frogs. And then on the other side of the African range, we have our Crabensis, which is still loving the plant tanks. The plant tanks in general here at Pond Life Aquatics, we didn't restock this week, but they have sold through quite significantly. Thankfully, we managed to get our Aquadistry order in. Not going too heavy next week, but we are getting lots of Anubias in stock. We are getting a variety of different hydrophilias, and hopefully everything will come in as planned. So that is it for new stock in the fish room. But I did forget to mention that we have, from our Asian range, a whole bunch of Mosquito rasbora, but they are all in the quarantine space, not because there's anything wrong with them. They are looking really happy, healthy, and full of color. We just didn't want to overstock our tanks. So if you are in the market for some beautiful Mosquito ras, please do give us a shout. We've got loads and loads in stock. We just don't like overstocking. I know it's something that would probably look visually quite impressive to have nearly 100 Mosquito rasbora shoved into a tiny tank. It's just not something that we want to encourage or add really the facility in here to do safely. So give us a shout. We've got loads of Mosquito ras, super happy and healthy, ready to go home. So that's it for the fish house, but I very briefly want to touch on some of the new tanks and everything that came in on our dry order. We got in a Aqua Horizon 130, which is a really good packaged tank. It's 120 liters, I think, in total volume. It comes with a light, a hang-on back filter, and a stand. I think it's all in at about £300, which really isn't too dear. We will double check the pricing and get that all up. You can see that we had huge amounts of product come in, but we just got so overrun in the past few days that we haven't been able to get everything arranged. So I set some time aside this afternoon to try and get our superfish tanks back into their positions because we sold through pretty much all of them last weekend. We've got our new Aqua Horizon tank, and we've got a whole bunch of really beautiful hardscape. And then because we have been asked a fair few times by a few people over the last few weeks, we now stock skimmers here at Pond Life Aquatics. It's not something that I typically thought about keeping for a very long time, just because in my mind, skimmers meant marine. Skimmers, for those of you who don't know, are a piece of machinery that sits at the surface of the water and draws water through it via a pump. The idea of this is that you can effectively remove things like duckweed from being able to grow, you break surface tension, and you can really get those shiny tops to your tanks that a lot of people want in things like aquascapes. So we have two different kinds of skimmers. We have the Awaza Crystal Skim, which are the premium skimmer that we wanted to stock. They are a little bit dear. I think they come in around £50 for the smaller model, but they are really slimline. They have this gorgeous little form factor and they run really nicely. I saw them at Patlas last year and I was quite excited to get them in. And then for a more budget end of things, we have the Superfish skimmer, which is about a fifth of the price, but it is a little bit boxier, doesn't have that same sleek design, but is a great alternative for people who don't want to have to spend the money on the Awaza, which I think is quite typical of a lot of pond products and tank products where Awaza cost more. They are that premium product, but not everyone wants to spend that premium money. So we are trying to give a diversity in terms of everything. And I know I don't usually talk about pond things, but I really do feel like just at the end, if you've made it this far, humor me for a minute. Let me talk you round the idea of pond keeping. Here at Pond Life Aquatics, it was the main thing we did for years and years. And it's the thing that we still do pretty much the most. Our outside range for Pond Life Aquatics is frankly huge. I know for a fact that we had the most diversity out of any aquatic centre in London last year in terms of our aquatic planting. We stock exclusively from the leading wholesaler of aquatic plants, Anglo Aquatics, and we just have this beautiful diversity of outdoor marginals. And this year, Anglo have come up with a way to help everyone keep a wildlife pond. And bear with me just 2 seconds. Their patio ponds can be kept indoors. So if you are in the market for a patio pond or beautiful little bowl-shaped ponds, Anglo Aquatics have made these gorgeous little concrete-based patio ponds that are completely aquatically safe, that are really easy to plant up. I've had this idea of keeping one of these patio ponds kind of scaped the way we sell them pre-made here at Pond Life Aquatics, but indoors in my new flat as a pseudo-tropical aquarium, but top-down only with something like Medaka Rice Fish, because you obviously can't keep Medakas outside, but you can keep them in a patio pond as long as that patio pond is inside. These Anglo Aquatics little ponds are absolutely stunning, and when you stock them up with all of the lilies and apologetum and equisetum that we stock here at Pond Life Aquatics, I think it can be something really special. We've been encouraging people to aquascape their patio ponds with bogwood, rock, and then fill it with beautiful marginal planting, and they've been extraordinarily popular. So I feel like it's worthwhile mentioning here at the end of the video. But for now, that is everything from me here at Pond Life Aquatics. Expect another stock update next week for plants and some new hardware. And I hope you'll join me again next time for this pond life.